All right, so let's talk about the back squat. Everything relates back to a squat, a push-up, and the jump, and ultimately posture. So how does the back squat fit into all of this? It's not just a squat, it's not as simple as that. We also are gonna tie in elements of the push-up to it. And with all of our different squatting variations, we're gonna do the same thing. So let's first talk about setup. With our stance, it kind of depends what we need to do. We're a little more powerful with our feet right under our hips, but we get a little more mobility out of our hips by using a stance a little bit wider. So in the squat, since we're looking at getting our hips down low, we're gonna use a stance that's slightly wider than a typical stance that we would use for jumping. So with our squat stance a little bit wider, we're gonna take our feet, we're gonna twist into the ground, nice and balanced, nice and even. Draw your lower abs in, Kegel, squeeze your butt cheeks, rib cage down, we stand tall, shoulders are back, and we're creating that nice torque in there. So we wanna hold these positions throughout. So as you're learning the squat, a really good thing you can do is just pause. What we notice is right at the beginning, people do a good job of getting set, and then right at the beginning, we typically see people immediately disengage and go into an overextended position, and that leads to a butt wink down at the bottom. So especially starting out, it is extremely important to get tight, everything here, squat a little bit and go through your checklist. Draw your lower abs in, Kegel, butt cheeks tight, trying to twist your feet on the floor, rib cage down, stand tall, shoulders back, create that rotation. And just go down and pause, go down and pause. We don't want your weight shifted around at all on your feet. So nice and even on your feet. So with the back squat, obviously the squat is related, but how's the push-up related? If my shoulder is not stabilized, my upper back tends to get dumped forward. And as I'm squatting, if my upper back tends to get dumped forward, that bar can roll on me a little bit and really pull me forward. So I'm gonna face this way out of the rack, even though I would typically use the rack the other way. But the strategy I like to use with all of my lifting, especially coming out of a rack, is I have a little bit of a routine. So I'm gonna stand back and I'm gonna get set right here before the weight is on me. So draw in, butt tight, Kegel, twist your feet on the floor, rib cage down, stand tall. I'm gonna take my grip on the bar. Everyone's a little bit different. I like my hands just outside my shoulders. If your shoulders are really, really tight, you may see some people going super wide. So if your shoulders are really tight, that super wide grip can be a workaround, but we wanna start bringing it back in a little narrower and a little narrower as we go. But in general, something just outside those shoulders is gonna allow us that nice, strong position to create some torque from the bar. So I'm gonna get my hands on the bar, shoulders back in their sockets. I'm gonna twist in to create that torque. Everything's nice and tight, and I'm gonna stay tight as I make my way in and under. So as I'm here, I'm driving in and up into the bar. Looks just like a push-up. So what I'm trying to do is get my forearm with the best leverage possible straight under that bar so I can really drive up and get that upper back tight. So what it looks like from this end, shoulders back, twist into the floor, everything nice and tight. And then I double check everything right here. So before I put weight, I double check everything, get tight, and then I stand up and I keep everything tight as I come back. So there's never a moment when I've got the bar on me that I'm collapsed. What we see a lot is people get the bar, they come out, and then they try and get organized, and by then it's just a little bit too late. So let's talk about the difference of a high bar back squat and a low bar back squat, and why we might choose one over the other. The high bar back squat is what I just demonstrated there. The bar's on top of the shoulders a little bit more. A common thing with beginners is they put the bar too high up and it hits their spine. It hits the bone right there. And a lot of beginners want to get bar pads and these other things when the reality is just the bar's in the wrong place. So for the high bar back squat, we're gonna get that bar sitting right on top of everything. So the low bar back squat, I'm gonna bring the bar down, much further down. I've got to drive my elbows up to hold it in place, and that's gonna create kind of a rack position right there. And now when I stand up with it, I'm a little more bent over, my elbows have to be flared back, and as I squat, I'm gonna be way more bent over than in the high bar position. So, both exercises, treat them as two separate exercises. The high bar back squat tends to be a little more functional. It transfers over into more things. So for most people, most of your back squat should be from the high bar position. But if we notice that you might be a little weak in the glutes or the hamstrings, we might have you do some low bar back squatting to get those guys caught up with the rest of the system. So in general, most people should be using a high bar back squat just because that's going to relate to their goals a little bit better. We always want to be specific and functional for what your goals are. So the other thing is when we have to drive our elbows up, now we're creating this internally rotated shoulder position that doesn't well transfer into other things. So the low bar back squat is we consider it a specialty exercise, where the high bar back squat is what we mean when we just generally say back squat. So remember, everything about the squat stays the same. Draw your lower abs in, Kegel, squeeze your butt cheeks, twist in the floor, rib cage down, stand tall, get those shoulders back and create that rotation. So it looks like a combination of a squat and a push-up, and we just hold those positions throughout. So if you pause at any point of the squat, you should be able to answer what you're supposed to be doing just based on in those simple terms. All right, talk to you guys soon.